All right, time to talk about something a little different. All right, so I have some problems to discuss, not necessarily of my own, but that of all humanity. And I want you to observe the way I kind of frame things. And it's not framing it in a way that is skewed, but rather in a way that I try to see as universal. I try to make everybody happy, okay? Let's just put it that way. There's always conflicts online. People will get in wars about simple little comments people make. I mean, it's like you can't even play a video game sometimes without getting yelled at if you're a noob. I mean, that's just the internet culture. I mean, I just know it because I've done it, you know what I mean? But I also see, yes, in real life people will fight over politics, religion, sports, common ones, all religions, by the way, technically. It's a belief system. And it's like, to me, I'm looking at it, I'm like, what in the world is going on here? Why are people fighting over this nonsense? And that's how I see it. But other people, they don't see it as nonsense. Why is that? Okay, and so I'm not saying that religion has no justification or even that sports has no justification. People love, doing active things and creating their own teams and having competition. In fact, these things can create the most faith to putting your health in a good place, actually. Yeah, and so a lot of YouTubers, pull up this faith, whether it be in God or whatever, and they use that as a way to push them forward, and they do okay. Oftentimes, though, when they come out and talk about it, depending on how they do it, they can get either a lot of hate or a lot of acceptance. It's acceptance, not necessarily approval, but the fact that you're willing to have an open mind to what I say, right, for example, would show that you are willing to just listen, not necessarily agree. I'm not asking you to agree. But I don't blame those for having some strong opinions. I don't. I think their intentions at heart can be very good people. And I say that for everybody that has a conflict on the internet. Like, truly, I'm not going to stick up for people, but I do believe that they believe certain things for a certain reason. And a lot of people fail to understand that simple fact. And oftentimes, by way of delivery or other means necessary, it may dissuade the actual message at hand, the actual fundamentals to that message at hand, because that message can also get distracted and pulled away from. Hence, you have interpretations of the Bible in many different ways, for example. Just one example. Many religions exist on this earth, all for a reason. And I've told you my whole position on that, but let's be honest. We can all agree that our world is being denatured. And by that, you may assume then also Luciferianism or Satanism being in control of the planet. And I'm not trying to be emotional about this or whatever. A lot of people can have passion about this, and clearly I have passion about certain things. But I also know it gets the message out there more. And I want to create an impact. A lot of people want to create an impact. So maybe they'll play into that sensation even more. With me, I do actually get fired up, but I don't let it control me necessarily. I do it for different reasons, of course. And I admit to that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. There comes a point where you got to express yourself, especially when you're on the internet and everybody's judging you. You have an identity to uphold, and you feel so tight for that. Sometimes restricting, even, believe it or not. It really depends on how you view it, your mentality. You can take it many different ways. And when I first looked at YouTube, I'm like, why do I want to be dependent on producing videos? So let's say I got famous on producing videos, people are going to be dependent on that content, and then they're going to be dependent on the content that they like, otherwise they're not going to watch you anymore, and just too many preconceived notions of my own that push myself down, right? But it's also not good to be too egoist, and I think, it's always going back to the left and right brain, because that's often where it is. So I like to observe the events going on YouTube sometimes. not too much. If I observe too many events in life between health, medicine, and politics and all this other stuff, I mean, heck, that's not really simplicity that I want to bring to people. But in order to understand the situation that we're in, we have to sometimes place our own shoes, in other people's shoes, and really look at it subjectively. But, I follow, I'll give an example. Okay? I don't necessarily follow this person, but I hear about it. And I wonder how many times this happened to YouTubers, because they always say, apologies, deleted videos, blah, blah, blah. And there's this one girl that I saw on YouTube, particularly into crystal healing. It's part of the reason why I ran across her content. Noticing that she's getting a little too spiritual with the content. And that's okay. Not necessarily bad. She is passionate. Right? Think about what people call Alex Jones. Okay? Oh, what is it? A completely different scenario? He's spewing nonsense, blah, blah, blah. No. Listen. He can still speak for himself. Nobody should want this person to no longer speak. And maybe if it sounds creepy at times because he plays on, using different voices and stuff like that, does that trigger you? I mean, we even have the meme, right, called Triggered in this life. I mean, do you think that's for a reason or not? It's because people get so easily low tolerance to what's going on in the world. So what I mean by left and right brain is you have a YouTuber like this, a girl who's getting more religious, and that's perfectly fine to me, not fine to a lot of people. And, there's some people that are like, oh, well, it makes Christians look bad or whatever. Oh, trust me, there's a lot of people that perceive religion many different ways, because that's just the nature of words on paper, being the Bible, and the nature of people perceiving such words, their teachers, simply is the nature of all, which is why I say nature is the answer. It's not just the outdoors, being outside and having natural medicine and stuff like that. It's also observing why certain things happen in the world and what their purpose is, really looking at that as a holistic point of view, the whole picture, the whole life, which does contain many, many different religions. So you can equate nature to God, and I have no problem with that, which is why I have no problem with some controversies online. So people could get a little fired up. So what? Okay, I'm talking about a particular YouTuber here. I guess I'll name it, even though I don't know how this person would feel about it, but that's okay. And I think it's actually worth saying, because you can't suppress this stuff. You can delete a video, but it's still going to be in the minds of many, and you had those feelings for a reason. And unless that correlation is made, which I'm trying to do here in this video, people will continue their hate, and the uploader will continue their trappedness, their lack of ability of authenticity and connection with their viewers. I mean, they got to speak their mind. That's why we have so many problems in the power structures, because everybody keeps quiet. And they do things behind the scenes, and they're not open about their feelings, so they resort to even worse things. Okay? I mean, if you really understand the situation and really thought about it, then it would make sense. So, this particular YouTuber, Sage Tullis, I'll name her, into crystal healing. There's nothing wrong with that. Into a lot of things that people generally liked, until she talks about religion and says that those who don't believe in God are ignorant and they're part of sin or whatever. Okay? Using a threatening voice and look and stuff like that. It scares people. She just gets into it. She does that in a lot of her other videos I see. So, this is just a case scenario for me to look at as a scientist, because honestly, I look at a lot of these events, even the coronavirus, believe it or not. I know this sounds crazy, and obviously I'll get a lot of hate for this too. I wouldn't care, though, frankly. I mean, I care, but I don't care, see? Ironically, is the fact that people are ignorant to wanting change, number one. So we know ignorance is there, especially since people won't accept natural law or elements of it. As Mark Passio perfectly describes what ignorance is and talk about the law of attraction, that's also another thing that she talks about. Except he's talking about the real law of attraction, not necessarily the New Age right brain dominant side, which I'm going to talk about. You see, you look at the coronavirus and you see how people react and stuff like that. And people believe in certain things. If you tell them other things, they may get mad. It's just the way life is. A lot of people don't agree with this, or don't agree with that. Kind of losing my, to be honest, I'm losing my tracking here. I was just talking about the virus, but I forgot what I was going to say about it, connecting this to the situation. But basically, when you're into this religious state, it's definitely right brain, and it's not necessarily bad. It's just there as is, and it's either your left brain, which is extremely ignorant and leading, authoritative, not necessarily caring about the holistic nature, right? Not necessarily caring about nature at all. It's left brain. It's scientism, which I absolutely despise. And I'm going to be more outspoken about it because it just drives me insane how much we focus on it in this world. And I have doctors that I know, and it's nothing against them, of course, but they're stuck in it. They need the facts all the time. And that's okay. I like it. I like the facts too. I'm always doing articles and studies and backing up my points, but still, I don't think we need it to prove everything. And then meanwhile, you have the religionists on the right brain who think God is the answer to everything. So we got two different sides here. And the point is obviously to strike a balance. Not necessarily against science, not necessarily against God. But people get stuck in these ways that sometimes inhibit their ability to think. So when somebody is right brain per se, they're going to be more likely to attack the left brain. And when someone is left brain, they're more likely to attack the right brain. Like atheists are usually left brain. So if atheists are left brain, religionists making right brain makes sense. And there you go, the conflict of balance there. And when they see wars and fire, as Sage says, as we see that from a right brain point of view, that is satanic when people are ignorant of what's going on and not wanting to change. I think that's the bigger message at hand. It's not necessarily believing in God, but working in alignment with the forces of God. Hence, that is what law of attraction is. So, I'm not telling you to believe in this or believe in that, but I'm telling you to work in alignment with what you are given. And I don't think anybody can disagree with that. So I'm trying to make a bridge, basically, between this person and that person, because connection and love is the answer. So ironically, that video just created less love. See, isn't that funny? I like to observe this from the point of view and say, well, isn't that ironic that that's happening? And then it makes people want to speak their minds less because they get hate for it. Bizarre. I actually don't disagree with anything that was said in that video. But even the apology video, that was okay. She just said, yeah, it was just the tone of my voice. But she wasn't afraid to speak her mind. And that's what people need to do in this life, is speak their mind. So I'll be honest. I like her because she's tender, she's sensitive. Tender as in tenderness, feminine. You don't see that much in today's society of piercings and tattoos and colored hair and masking true identity. Now, I'm not saying that she isn't, and we all are to some extent. But the thing is, Really? You're gonna unsubscribe from the channel because you don't agree with somebody? When their intentions might mean something more? When they don't have the chance to explain themselves to you in person, what they truly feel? Maybe what would be best is going on a live stream and talking with people directly to get it out. But what if that's too much pressure, especially for a young person in this world? I mean, you really got to think about these things, right? I mean, what is the average age of the viewer? If it's older, then why are you picking on the young? And if it's younger, then how do you comprehend it as well? Here's the thing, right? There's a lot of imbalances everywhere in life. So I don't see why people should get upset about this and delete this video. And I mean, YouTube is supposed to be about you. Not about having everything squeaky clean perfect. I mean, I get obsessed with that too on my gaming channel. It's like every video must be professionally made. And that's cool and all. That's cool and all. I want to make sure everything stays professional. But you can't be stuck like that, because if you do, you're not going to produce as much content. And look what's happened. Not any content since 2 months ago, 3 months ago, 4 months ago. And it adds up. And then how does that business go? What if she's relying on that? And what about the relationships in her life? Is that affecting it? You have to ask these questions, because a lot of people have these tangents. A lot of people have these feelings, all for a reason. Maybe they had a bad day, bad week, bad usage of words and tone. And, because truly, we all know words can't speak for the truth. Actions can. But the truth speaks for itself, and we are interpreting it. When I say the truth speaks for itself and nature speaks for itself, people get so confused, and they're like, well, then what are we supposed to do with it? It speaks for itself. I don't have to listen to it. Like, I didn't say you didn't have to listen to it. Okay, I notice I'm getting a little passionate. I'm sorry. But this is my directional way of speaking. And sometimes that's how certain people are. Look at Mark Passio. Look at the way he speaks. Sometimes he gets aggressive. Why is that? It's because he was in a heavy metal band. Look at Alex Jones. It's because he went 20 years of his life reading articles that nobody else read, hearing about secret things people are doing, and nobody's doing anything about it. Or he hasn't seen the change that he wanted to see. So there's so many ways to see this, and people want to jump to the gun. What do you want to call normies, YouTube life? I don't know what it is. Because I see people on Twitch, they're very open about their feelings, and they get hate. Oh well, they're live. They can talk about it. They're live for, 8 hours a day, most of them, professionally. Crazy stuff, but that's what they do. And you know what? The controversy doesn't even matter at the end of the day, because they're themselves, and they actually get more publicity that way at the end of the day. Maybe not so good short term, especially if you have a fan base built on other stuff. But change is natural. It's like people, I know it's the same thing in music, right? People who say, oh my gosh, I love this person's music. This person's music is fantastic. I've been listening to, this person's music, and then they release their next album, and it's totally different. And they're like, oh my gosh, what happened to the old, let me think of an artist. What happened to the old, I can't think of any artist on the top of my head, but, what happened to the old artist? Right? And let's just say Emancipator, even though I'd say his sound is consistent. Yeah, he's not a good example. Okay, Grammatic. Okay, just a random one, honestly. His old stuff, very jazzy, upbeat. Next one's started to be dubstep and weird sounds. Okay, the best example, Black Mill. He stopped producing music after a while. Now, how does this concern you? Because, well, first of all, their music's good, especially their old stuff. But through time, as things change in their life, their music changes with them, and they can't really do much about it. They can't reproduce the music and the sound they produced back then. Maybe some of the publicity that hit them, it changed their mind a little bit, because that happens too. Remember, being in certain power positions naturally corrupts you or whatever, which is why it's also important to have a health coach, is to keep you accountable to standards of nature or being your best self. But people who produce that music, sorry, that was my knee, did you hear that? People that produce music, it's bound to change. It can't stay the same forever. Now, there are certain expectations for the pop industry, the mainstream music industry. It's got to be this, it's got to be that, it's got to grab your attention immediately, it's got to be instant, spontaneous gratification. And that's how they pull people in with apps, games, and all this stuff now. And it's like it turns into gambling, an addiction, frankly. But it's sad to me to see that people as young as me, I still consider myself young. And I think a lot of people sometimes of older brain can consider themselves young, and that's not a bad thing. It's because they're still the same soul at heart. If you want to get spiritual, I can get more spiritual than probably anybody. I'm not bragging to say that. I'm just saying that I too have that connection with the universe. I want to connect more with people like you. And the internet's a great way to possibly do that, if you accept it. But I also want to connect with nature, which is why I'm going to work on the farm and do things directly. Crystals is one of those things. You're right with it. Natural foods is one of those things. You're consuming it. It's meant for you to consume. Salt lamps and water alone. All these things are meant to be around you. Which is partly why people seek so much vacation nowadays. It's because they're always in offices or away from plants. And meanwhile, I have a video about how just having a plant next to your desk can, slower your, your heart rate by like 41%. Amazing stuff. Significantly, better health, well-being, just being around nature, having a simple plant. Such simple things. What was it? 120 minutes every week? Every 2 weeks, I think it was. Just being in nature. That's such a small amount of time if you would especially compare it with our ancestors. So meanwhile, while we're stuck in our scientism world of coronavirus and people getting very religionist, I'm trying to seek a balance. And I think Sage is beautiful. She's speaking her mind, and that's beautiful too. Yeah, so what? I have an internet crush. Great. Because she's feminine. She's actually real. I just don't see that in a lot of other people. I don't. But just putting that out there. I wanted to. And I'm not scared to post this either. Even if my family sees it. Who cares? I think it's good to say that she's not like a typical Instagram person either. It means just not even like looking for the attention. Not even on internet that much. Social media, technology. I could admit I go wrong in many places. When it comes to technology, I'm always on it. What am I doing right now? I mean, actually, I'm not on technology. I'm recording with technology. But I'm looking off of technology. I'm thinking off of technology. Technology is actually helping me. But it's not controlling my life. So you have to question those things that take control of your life. Is it the belief system? And is there certain things that take control of you when you're delivering a message, like your emotions, that take away from the message sometimes? The emotions should abide to the message, but the emotions should not want to force somebody to believe in that, because then people think otherwise. But again, having all these strict standards and saying this is that, people come up with these things naturally. And it's a good wake-up call still that she got criticism anyways, because actually it's good to have that little bit of accountability sometimes, a little wake-up call how people perceive things. However, how people perceive things is so often wrong in our world as it is. So I don't see why people have to be so upset after everything I listed. Okay? Maybe it's a right brain thing. I get it. That's why I observe these patterns and the religion stuff. but I see it could be a great motivational factor in health. And what are people lacking the most right now? It's health, especially with the virus going on. But no matter what time you hear this podcast, I mean, there's probably always some virus going around. There's always some religion existing. And you can't deny that there isn't Satanism or sin. Because the evil in this world that wants to take us down does exist. And without acknowledging it, it's like without identifying the enemy. Who do you know is the enemy? They're going to backstab you. Because you're completely unaware. They're just going to take you by surprise, behind the back. And there's nothing you can do about it because you weren't prepared, you didn't ask the question. So, since you couldn't make a proper diagnosis, you couldn't make a proper treatment. Or prevention, should I say, which also lacks in our society. Due to this reason, the lack of questioning. So I'm going to wrap it up because this is getting way too long. But just let me go to scientism now, okay? Statistics are always faulty in many cases. I have a list here. No statistics to prove it. No statistics to prove that statistics are always, faulty in many cases. You can't prove what is just real. It is, like love. How do you prove that through science? Tell me. Because the people who are most left brain dominant, imbalanced, have the least love in many cases. I tend to steer away from the left brain when I'm in the science medical field. So I save myself some time and not do too much research, actually. Because I get trapped in it. I don't want to. And I don't want to be like, well, according to my calculations, this is what this is. It's not who I am. I want to stay loving. I don't want to be a dry, bland doctor like the many that are out there. No offense. But how did they get a wake-up call? Sometimes it's by somebody yelling in their face or being threatening. So I'm telling you, people have a passion for a reason. They're mad at what they see, and they react that way because they want people to do something different. So common sense actually proves what is natural, what is nature, and common sense should be these statistics. If someone asked, don't you need science to help someone become healthy? I'd say you have no choice but to resort to science in a complex world of denaturing in order to heal. But that's why it's about taking down boundaries, you see? Health actually is common sense past all the modern world problems we created for ourselves, even after fixing old problems. So yes, I'm skeptical for all mainstream narratives, as you should, simply by needing self-control and innovation. And by the way, religion has been around for a while. There's been many preachers and stuff like that. So you're going to get mad at some one person on the internet who's my age, 19, 18 or so, and you're going to get mad at them for speaking their mind in a demeaning way. The way she presented it requires some accountability. That's fine. But unsubbing and, oh my gosh, so bad, and oh, it looks evil, like, it just caves into the emotions, that's fine. It's just, everybody has to learn. Just, don't get all worked up over it, is what I'm saying. And encourage that people do speak their mind. So make that disclaimer, like, okay, yeah, your voice was a little weird, and facial expressions, not so good, but thank you for speaking your mind. I respect it, and I agree with the general premises that, Satanism or evil influences or in whatever it is definitely in control of the world, or is taking a lot of control over people, leading to ignorant decisions and nascent decisions that are uninformed, that are unhealthy. That's what it is. Not for life, basically, which is why people who believe in life, whether that be in the form of God, are so passionate. And I have the same premises, but I'm not putting it under the banner of religion in any regards, technically. I'm using nature as more of a universal religion that I consider in the balance of the mix between scientism and religion. But I say more innovation or questioning. And it'll all tumble down upon ourselves after a while without underlying beginning premises. So without questioning, there is no innovation. And what I meant by that tumble down part is we can innovate and just create great technology, but without understanding how we got there in the first place, it'll all just come back down on ourselves. So we got here, due to religion, but also wars from religion, but religion created wars, and we still have religion, just in different forms. Scientism and government being the biggest ones, and always have for quite some time, especially with those in power. So it's important to note that also, if you look at Satanism, it's often abiding, wanting to push down the spiritual world with the physical world. So I don't blame the New Age movement for growing, which is often into this crystal healing stuff, but the New Age movement has a lot of problems of its own, especially when it comes to order following and getting too religionist, where solipsism can still take place in both left and right brains. And I say that the premises for all of life is that of life itself, natural law ultimately. So climate change likely natural with humans affecting, but by wanting to be God. No statistics could prove nature isn't stronger. It's just some simple thoughts for myself, and for you, it's like, well, you really need statistics for this stuff. This stuff has been going around for, we project, millions and billions of years. The climate changing went from ice age to burning hot to ice age to burning hot, and there's a cycle upon our actions, and that there's going to be viruses that wipe us out because we have weak immune systems. We don't really have to worry necessarily about the temperature when we have all this other stuff going on. I mean, really. Everything's a balance scheme. For the most part, I see climate change as a distraction, but regardless, I do have a video about that separately. It's not my most favorite of my videos, but it does provide a different perspective, and that's what I wanted to do. I say we don't have to know everything. We are obsessed with science to prove truth. It is a religion cult. So some people may say, oh, well, Sage was oh my gosh, she was sounding like she was promoting a cult, and she's in a cult and stuff like that. Yeah, kind of. I could see where you're coming from. However, could you see where she's coming from? That's my question to you. Okay, so just be open to the discussion. Be open to understanding why it is the way it is. And I think, the accountability is always good for everybody, though. And everybody goes wrong in many different places, and that's okay. But I'm here to defend and say, I really don't think she did anything wrong. Except that, what she admitted herself, and still deleted that video. So, again, just, a little worries me. I don't want there to be any suppression of what is felt. And I don't want the feminine nature to be gone, because the sacred feminine is what we must protect. As a male, my job is to protect the feminine, the true feminine, anyways, but not necessarily be a, quote, simp, okay? Not necessarily be a slave to anything. But, I say, okay, let's see. I say here that this isn't about health, nor science, nor religion. Even, rather, nature is being denatured. That's how I view much of everything. Because we can believe we can have power over it. So we believe we have power over nature. We can just change the world we live in, and that often leads to war. That often leads to fires, to all the problems. Notice that, okay? And having something to believe in, like God, is not a bad thing. And yes, you must believe in God because this, yes... Yeah, you should believe in a force that works in alignment with you. And that is what is greater than you. It gives you more purpose in life to have something greater than yourself as a goal, as an aspiration to look up to, figuratively, to heaven, if you will. But yes, we have the power of choice, but it's not for the whole world, presuming upon other beings, especially by force. That's where it becomes a problem. So we have the power of choice, but often it starts with our belief system, and our belief system is what drives these religion elements. So if we believe in God or nature, in the very premises that you believe in natural law in a way that yes, if I do something, there's consequences. Yes, if I do this, it may work in alignment or not with the world. I mean, natural law really is considered God's law. So that's why I kind of equate it to what I'm saying is God and nature. It is what governs human behavior and the consequences of our behavior. So natural law was right in work when the video was made and deleted, which is what makes me want to create this video, is saying, okay, well, hopefully she doesn't feel too bad about it because nobody liked either response and was terrified and so forth. And then it was edited. I saw edited versions on YouTube trying to make her look evil. Like, I'm here to defend people who get, trashed on the internet and defend people who may be a little confused even, and we can admit to it. Milo had his own controversy. Milo Yiannopoulos. I know I'm going all over the place here, but he's another one. Had his own controversy with something. And it's like, I just want to reach a balance. I wanted to see, well, what's the perspective here? What is hidden? What is not? What is authenticity? And the internet is good at spotting out things. I will admit that. The internet is good, but sometimes they spot it too much. They get too left brain. So they're not going to be exactly as accepting for right brain necessarily. People love hearing, though, love yourself and do this. I think, that's reassuring for a lot of people. And a lot of YouTubers promote that now. And in ways, I'm against that in many ways. But you should. It's because they don't see it enough in society. They see that's what helped them rise up. And how a lot of people just lack that faith and potential. So maybe as a figure themselves, they can give people more of that potential, that faith. So whether you're looking at faith as religion or not, it's the same degree in many cases. I hope you get what I'm saying, but I don't want to make this any longer. I feel like I always make these so long. But it's not forced if it's just a message. And it is a little threatening, but that's what the Bible even says. Oh, if you don't believe in God, and some people say this about the religion, if you don't believe in this, you can't come to our temple or whatever. You'll go to hell if this happens. Like, that's what it says in there. So don't even blame the person saying it. It's actually the books and a lot of other people that believe it too. And some people take it that way. They take it to the extreme where they want to use a lot of emotion. Okay? So what happens? And we have to accept that. We have to understand that. And we can emerge stronger. We always can learn from what's happening. So, if Sage happens to be listening, more transparency never hurts. Never hurts. That's just my friendly advice. Of course, do what your heart desires. But don't suppress anything. And this goes for any listener. Don't suppress anything. Not good. If you have feelings, you gotta let them out. And at the end of the day, I think she's trying to promote that underlying basis and is using God as one of those ways to help promote it. And for many people, it is one of those ways to achieve faith, to achieve happiness. And so I understand where that's coming from as one religion within nature. That being said, your actions do basically give you the consequences to your actions. Basically, it's like a domino line that has a delay time to come back to you. And Mark Pastio puts it best when it's karma, because that's what it is. If you were to push a domino and it's circled back to you, it takes some time before it gets back to you and hits you right in the head, because you were pushing it. Right in front of the beginning of the domino line, and right behind you is the end. So it's going to end up hitting you in the back, but it takes some time to do that. Right? So just the way this life is, and a lot of people don't learn because of how long that takes, especially when we're trained in an instant gratification system. So it takes time to learn, and that's okay. And it takes time to learn for everything, and especially takes time to learn for that of which is the truth, especially in a world where the truth is just pushed down. So I respect people's opinions on the matter. I'm open to hearing your thoughts. Of course, I have a different way of approaching things because of how I see things, but nonetheless, I don't think anybody's wrong for what they do, especially when it comes to me defending our generation. I have faith in my generation, and we may make some mistakes sometimes, but a lot of people do, and a lot of times they don't realize it. So thank you very much, Internet. Thank you very much, Sage. Thank you very much, case examples, people, the world we live in. We have a lot to learn simply from what is and how people act and behave. And my job is to look at it from a point of view where I can be a scientist, observe, experiment, and see the result. Thank you very much for listening. Corey has been Angela. It's Nature's the Answer. Goodbye.